everyone. My name is Brian Inuma. Our company is Strategic Systems Group. We are a Los Angeles-based IT consulting firm and experts in enterprise resource planning. With me, I have Greg Horn, who will take us through an overview of Dynamics 365 Business Central.
Hello again, this is Greg Horn, and I am back with part 2 of our demonstration tour of Dynamics 365 Business Central. This demonstration will cover the reporting capabilities of Business Central. There are many different ways to get access to the data you want to review in the system. The first example I'm going to show you is how you can filter any list in the system. Business Central comes with many possible lists that you can generate. What I would call master lists, for example, customers, vendors, inventory items, projects. Then there are document lists, things like sales quotes, sales orders, purchase orders. And those are just a couple examples. And what I'm going to walk you through an example is how you can use and filter lists in the system. So let's use a scenario where an accounts receivable specialist needs to make collection calls. If they select the customer list, the default is to show all of the customers that we currently have in Business Central. On the left-hand side, you will see the filter criteria, and I can filter my list by any of the fields that are attached to the customer records. And in this example, what I want to do is I want to select customers that have large overdue balances. So I will find the balance due field and into the box. And from here, I can use multiple search symbols like Boolean operators, greater than, less than, and hit, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in I want customers with greater than $1,000 balance. And when I hit enter, you'll see the list filters to only customers with a balance due greater than $1,000. So I can save that. That will save in my filter list, and it will stay there until I go ahead and reset my filters. The other things I can do to get data in this filter window is use the search criteria. So if I click on the magnification box and type in the word John, and you see it is now filtering the list and selects John Haddock Insurance because that was the only occurrence in the list where John came up. So just to give you another example, I'm going to type Jim, and you see it's looked throughout the searches throughout all the fields in the actual record itself and in the view. So it's not just looking at one specific field, it's looking at all of the fields. Some of the other things I can do in the system, if I reset filters, is I can take the column headers and I can sort by the column headers, or I can, I got to take off my search. I can sort by the column headers, and you see in the drop down there are some other functionality in here that I can go ahead and filter my data by. So that's one example in the system. The next example in the system is reports. There are hundreds of reports in the system, and I want to show an example of a non-financial report, or one that isn't related to the general ledger. So again, I'll use the customer example, go up to reports, and show you an example of a customer balance to date. This is a similar graphical or a report version of the view that I was just looking at. So when I launch that report, you see some additional options that I can use to modify how the report looks. So let's just go ahead and we'll preview this to the screen so you can see what the report looks like out of the box. I have the ability to be able to navigate through this report on the screen And you can see how a standard report looks out of the box. As I had said, there are hundreds of reports in the system, and this is just one of the examples. You also have the ability to be able to take this standard report and utilize what's called the custom layout designer and modify this to your business requirements. So that's an example of a non-financial report. So for the accountants, controllers, or chief financial officers out there, the question would be, how do we generate financial statements in Business Central? These reports are called account schedules. So I'm going to go up to the account schedules and show you an example of an account schedule. So as we bring up the account schedules, you will see all of your standard financial statements. Balance sheet, statement of cash flows, income statement, statement of retained earnings. I'm going to show an example of a balance sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to print that to the screen. And again, you see some layout definitions so we can change, again, the look and feel. Account schedules are made up of the account schedule and the column layout, and I'll talk a little bit more about these in a second. So again, I will go ahead and I'll print preview this to the screen. And you will see a sample of a balance sheet in the system. So now, how do I modify these? Because these are reports that are typically modified in the system. So the first part is the row definitions in the financial statement. And we go in and we edit the account schedule, and you'll see it brings up the row definitions for the balance sheet. Things you can do in here are go in and modify things like how the account groupings are mapped, the calculation formulas, and how the chart of accounts are mapped. Now, for the row definitions, let's go back and define our column layouts. In the column layouts is where we define the columns and what data is going to be going in the columns. Some examples in the column layouts are you could create multi-period columns, divisional presentation, a net change column, and percent change. Those are just a couple of examples. Taking the combinations of account schedules and column layouts give you unlimited possibilities for your financial statements. So those are the reporting capabilities. One of the other very powerful tools that we have in Business Central is the export to Excel capability, or edit in Excel. So in addition to the querying and standard and financial reports, we can take any view like we started off with and export that data to Excel. So we're going to go back to that customer example and click on the edit in Excel. What this is going to do is this is going to generate an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that Excel spreadsheet and enable editing. So we can use the flexibility of Excel to get the data in the format that we need, but the real power of this Excel add-in is the section over here on the right-hand side of the screen. This is not just a data dump from Business Central. What this is an active link that uses your Business Central security authentication to create a two-way connection from Business Central to Excel. So what I want to show here is an example of what we can do in the system outside Excel, utilizing the power that Excel has. So I want to be able to take my customers and do a mass update of their credit limit. So I move over to the credit limit field and I can change the credit limit for the customer, and I can copy and paste that down, something you can't do with inside the system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually publish, because this is a two-way link, I'm going to publish this data back to Business Central. So if I go ahead and click on publish, if you watch, it just processed 5 changes. So there were 5 customer records here. So I'm going to now go back into Business Central. And I'm going to refresh the page. Sometimes it takes a minute or two to get the data to refresh. And we're going to open up one of those customer records. Yep, and it hasn't, it's making me a liar. It hasn't updated yet. So let's go ahead and give another second here. So let's go back into that customer. And as you see, it's made a change. And it's even highlighted that change in red because we have some workflow behind the scenes that flags when changes are made to certain fields in the system. So some very powerful tools to be able to get the data you want out of the system. The last example of reporting that I want to show in Business Central is Power BI. The amount of data that companies are gathering is at an alarming rate. Relevant data can come at you from your ERP system, your CRM system, your corporate social networks, and even machines on your shop floor with IoT, just to name a couple data sources. The key is to be able to take that data and be able to make actionable business decisions in a proactive nature. Power BI lets you gather that business intelligence in real time and allows you to be able to visually explore and analyze the data. This data can come from on-premise solutions or cloud-based solutions. Power BI is included with Business Central and has many reports and dashboards already predefined for you. You can take those reports and dashboards and modify them for your specific business use. So let's take a look at what Power BI can do in a quick little example. So let's take a look at my workspace. And this will show you some examples of the dashboards that are predefined. Then here are all of the reports that are defined in the system. So you will see these reports and dashboards cross all of your data that would be within inside Business Central, things like customers, inventory items, projects, purchasing, and sales. So I'm going to go back and show you an example of one of the dashboards called the Customer Profitability. And you will see here, I'm going to expand the screen so you can see, what this is a team scorecard. And this shows how our revenue is doing on a year-to-date basis for the company for all of our account executives or sales executives. So as I scroll across the top of the screen in the left-hand dashboard, you will see how each executive is doing against budget for revenue on a month-to-month basis. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and show you an example of how this report or how this dashboard is dynamic. So if you watch on the right-hand side, when I select the Eastern region, the other 3 dashboards or reports changed. And what I can do with that is I can see, and I will go down to the heat map in the corner. What I can do from this is I can see that now all of a sudden my revenue in the East is consisting of 23 customers, the products, and what our potential gross margin is. And in the revenue by state, this shows on an actual map, heat map, on where we have our most sales. And we can see that in Florida, we are red hot. So we could potentially make a decision to put more of our marketing efforts towards Florida because that's a pretty hot market for us and for our products. The other thing I can do from here as well is if I want to drill down on a specific executive, I just click the checkbox and you see that we've switched over to the specific executive, how much revenue they're doing on a monthly basis. You can see what territories they cover inside this dashboard. The next dashboard on the tab down here is the industry margin analysis. So what this would do is this would allow us to be able to see how we are doing by industry and by product. So again, you have the same capabilities to be able to slice and dice this information on the dashboard. And what's nice about this is as data is being entered into the system, you have the ability to be able to have this updated and reflected and give you this, and this can be embedded in Business Central. I'm just showing this in Power BI. The last example is in the first series we talked about mobility, and this gives you the example to show how this would look on a mobile device. When you're doing report designing in the Power BI Report Designer, you have the option to see how your dashboard would look like on whether it's a PC, whether it's a tablet, or a mobile device. So giving you the ability, and this is a mobile example, giving you the ability to be able to get this data on on a mobile device while you're on the fly.
Thank you, Greg, for that demonstration. I have a couple of questions that might be worthwhile for us to discuss right now. The first one, I noticed that there was delay in the Excel access to Dynamics 365's data. Is that delay going to be, is that common?
Yeah, good point. Good point. Obviously, in demonstrations, delays aren't good. But what happens or was happening there is that the instance of Business Central that we're using is designed for demonstration. Customers, when they purchase and subscribe to Business Central, will be getting a production instance, and the horsepower in the Microsoft data centers is going to be a lot greater, and the response time will be almost instantaneous, and you wouldn't have seen that lag that you did in the presentation.
Next question relates to publishing. So in the Excel spreadsheet that you showed a change to the credit limits, is there a way to restrict that?
Yes, there's. I made it look super easy, and the key is the authentication, and the authentication is based upon your role and your security that has been defined in Business Central. So you only have access in that export to Excel to data that you have rights to within Business Central.
Okay, the next question is about customization. So you showed some customization of the financial reports. Is there also customization available for the lists and the standard reports?
Yes. Yeah, the Report Layout Designer is a tool we didn't go into in the presentation, but there is a tool to be able to take those standard reports and modify those just as easily as I showed you could do with the financial reports.
And our last question relates to Power BI. So in other work with Power BI, we've used a desktop application, so Power BI Desktop, and then published things into the cloud to be deployed in Power BI online. So in this scenario that you showed us for Dynamics 365, is there a need for a desktop Power BI?
You have the option, it's user preference. You can use the desktop version to make modifications to the existing Business Central dashboards and reports, or you can use the online version. No, there's no difference between the two. It's just a user preference.
Thank you for joining us today, and congratulations for investing time in your education. We'd like to offer a way to continue our conversation. If any of what we presented resonates with you, please register for a 30-day trial of Dynamics 365 Business Central. The trial will provide you with an opportunity to evaluate the application using the provided sample data or your own data. To sign up, would you please click on the link below. Again, our thanks, and make it a great day.